Cup winners no doubt thought the luggage rack was the safest place for the trophy on their journey north. And driving through Blackpool itself, what a reception they had. Everything seemed to have stopped in the town. Something like 500,000 people are estimated to have been out to welcome the heroes of Wembley. What a moment of triumph, and how good they must have felt, every member of the team. Speeches too, of course, including a modest word from Stan Matthews.
I'm told that by one or two people that I was the match winner. As a matter of fact, I don't believe that for the simple reason we have here 11 match winners.
Picture sufficient to identify a legend. The feet which unlaced 1,000 fullbacks, for the stripes of Stoke City, the tangerine of Blackpool, and the white of England.
Wembley sees its most colourful game for years when Brazil, in the very short shorts, meet England. Tommy Taylor nearly scores a first-minute goal. Stan Matthews, grand old man of English football, beats Milton Santos and passes to John Atio. Atio to Taylor, and from 10 yards out, Taylor scores.
The old man was 41 and would play for England for another year yet.
And once again, Stan Matthews beats his man, passing to Jeff Hall. Out to the right wing, where centre-forward Tommy Taylor crosses to collect it and passes to Johnny Haynes. Johnny flicks it past goalie Galma to Granger, and England are 2 up. Brazil score early in the second half. Then Didi, named the Cobra, wriggles through the defence and strikes. And that's the equaliser. The crowd aren't so happy now, but veteran wizard Stan Matthews soon has them cheering again. He beats skipper Milton Santos and passes inside to Johnny Haynes. Johnny shoots, but it hits the crossbar. Hard luck, England. England attacking again. Stan Matthews has it. He's challenged. He centres to Atio, who beats the goalie and heads to Taylor, and Taylor scores. England 3, Brazil 2, and only a few minutes to go. Once again, it's Stan Matthews who gives Granger the opening, and Granger nods it home. So it's England 4, Brazil 2. One more victory won by teamwork against a side of brilliant individuals.
A knight of the realm. A footballer belonging to the world. Matthews these days lives with his second wife, Mila, on the outskirts of Toronto. He's now in his 70s, but time has not dimmed the respect for a man whose career spanned 4 decades, nor the desire to hear his story at first hand.
As a kid, how much time did you spend playing football?
I used to play with a little tennis ball against the wall. And I think that's where I learned all the ball control. Passing in and out and so on and so on. And I think it's very important for young kids to do that. In those days, things were pretty tough. To get a football, you couldn't afford it. And sometimes we played with a pig's bladder. Used to go to the butchers and say, have you got a pig's bladder? We used to and play with that. Played with everything, tin cans.
The cobbled streets of Hanley were home to the Matthews family. Stanley, born in 1915, being the third of 4 brothers. His father, Jack, was very much a local character.
He was a hairdresser, and I used to sometimes go into his shop and love the customers, you know. They called me the Sweeney Todd's barber boy, you know. And he was a very good boxer in his day, and mad for fitness.
When you say very good, I mean, was he fighting at the...
Oh, he was a featherweight champion, yes. I think he won about 90 odd fights, 806. He was a well-known boxer in his day.
Did you ever think of becoming one?
No. I didn't like it.
Instead, the Victoria Ground Stoke became the scene of his sporting success. At first as his father's runner.
There used to be a famous meeting in the Victoria Ground in Stoke. Every year in August, there used to be athletic meetings. And he entered me in the 100 yards. And I was 5 years of age. I remember it slightly that he took me, and when I got there, I cried. I didn't want to run. I was too nervous. So he didn't say anything, and then the following year came, I was 6. And I had a 40-yard start from the scratch man. And he took me by my hand. He put me on the track. He said, as soon as you hear the pistol go, run like mad. I just ran, you see. But I didn't know afterwards. And then I got to the final. I won it easily, apparently. But I didn't know. In those days, there was bookmakers on the ground. And I think he and his pal made a little bit of money. I was the outsider. And I think that was his idea. I could run a bit, apparently. And he put me in.
You didn't get a bonus in any way?
Oh, yes, I got a goldfish. My father was very, very strict. He always got me up about 6 o'clock. He said, now, you have a job at Stoke City. From where we live to Stoke is 2 miles. You have to walk every day. I said, how do you mean, Bob? He says, you've got to walk. No buzz money for you. The only time you'll have buzz money is when it snows. He says, you leave here at 8:30. You've got to go to Stoke City for 9 o'clock. You're back for your lunch. After lunch, you walk again and back. So I did 8 miles a day for 4 years. And I used to love it. I used to love getting up in the morning. I used to do my exercise. I loved the walk. I tried to do all the shortcuts through the park, Henley Park, and so on.
How did the senior players at Stoke react to the arrival of Stanley Matthews?
They threw me one day in the bath because I said, isn't it a good morning? He said, it's not good morning. Threw me in the bath. I used to sweep the dressing rooms amongst the pros, train with them, clean the bathrooms, did everything like that. And then I played 2 games in the reserves. That's 15. And then when I was 16, I was still an amateur. I played 22 games. And then, of course, I became a pro at 17. And at 17, when I signed on, I got £10 sign-on fee, which was a lot of money in those days. And I got £5 for the winter and £3 for the summer, which is good. And £1 for a bonus. In those days, they never paid you by check. They always paid you on the Friday, the bonus and your wages. So my mother and I always shared the bonus together. My father never knew about that, so it was a nice little secret about that.
What sort of lady was she? Typical English lady at the time?
Typical English, and mothered me a bit, and many a time when it was raining, I don't think she liked me to walk to Stoke in the rain, but the discipline, my father said, you've got to, and that's it.
Let's move on to your first match in the first team, Barry, I think.
I don't know what I did. I remember sending the ball outside the penalty, from the wing outside the penalty box, and their goalkeeper came out and headed it. He only just touched it, and it went to one of our players, and he hit it in the net. And we won 1-0. But I didn't play the following week. There was lots of competition in those days. There must have been in Stoke over 44 professionals. And there used to be changes every week. If you won 4-0 and you didn't play so well, you were out. And if you had an unchanged team, it was headlines, because the competition was there all the time. 3 players outside right, 3 players or 4 players inside forwards, and so on. It was really competition and tough.
Now, I've made the assumption, which I'm sure many people make, and that is that you were born as a winger. But were you? Did you play anywhere else?
Of course, when I was, when I was playing for the school, apparently I was a big boy, and they put me centre half. And the headmaster, my school, he came on the Monday morning, he gave me 6pence, because I scored 6 goals, you see. And then the selection, apparently, the teachers came and said, "You're going for a trial, for the English trial." And I said, yes. He says, "You're going to play outside right." I said, "Sir, but I've never played outside right." He says, "You'll be all right." So I played for North versus South in the trial. And then I think I scored, and then I played for England versus the rest. I think I scored. I used to score in those days, you know. And then I selected for England against Wales in Bournemouth. You know, the amazing part about it is this. Of those 11 players who played for England schoolboys, I was the one who made it, the only one who made it. The others fell away to the wayside.
5 years later, he took his place at outside right in another team photograph. But this time, Matthews joined 10 others who had made it for his full international debut.
Tom Cooper is England's captain. Ninian Park is crowded with 40,000 cheering Welshmen. No tougher international debut could have been chosen for a boy of 19. But Stanley Matthews, just 2 years a professional, comes through his ordeal with flying colours. Brooke and Tilson, that famous Manchester City pair, score 3 goals between them. And then Stanley Matthews weighs in with one, a goal in his first international.
In the next 3 years, he won only 3 more caps. But in December 1937, against Czechoslovakia at Tottenham, he made his mark in the England side, though in a style very different from the Matthews of post-war years.
He's still outside the penalty area when he shoots, and what a sizzling goal it is. Because of injuries, Matthews is playing inside right. And there's another Matthews goal to come. And Stanley hasn't finished yet. There's another Matthews goal coming, another left footer.
It was the only hat-trick of his international career.
What was it like playing for England then? I mean, what happened? How did the players get together? What were the selectors like and so on?
Well, there was no manager. There's no sort of tactic talks. And we used to arrive, say if we played in Wales, wherever we were, used to arrive there on the Friday night. And we used to just play the game. Next morning we used to get paid in notes, £8, I think, for playing. And you used to have a little chit. Your travelling expenses, say from Stoke to London, whatever it was, you put it down, and the afternoon tea on the train, so and so. But then we had a treasurer there. And if you put 6pence over, you check it. He says, "You've charged too much," in those days. And that's how it went.
What about the other players in the team, Stan, the big names at that time? I mean, people like Wilf Copping were in the side when you first...
Well, Wolf was personality. He was a tough, I tell you, he was a tough man. He had one of these very thick beards. And if he had a day's growth, he looked a real rogue, you know. And I said to him one day, "Why do you keep your beard? Why don't you shave?" He said, "Why should I?" And he had, had his nose a little bit crooked, you know. He said, "Frighten them." And he said, he did frighten them with his tails. He was a hard player. And then there was Eddie Hapgood. He was a fine full-back. He was a finesse, you know. He used to jog you in position, you to make the mistakes. And because all the other full-backs, when I started, they used to send you a telegram. And if you're about 5 yards away and you got the ball, they used to come sliding at you. Well, you only had to just move and they would go. That was very easy, but Eddie, he was too clever. Eddie had the know-how. He would jockey in position to make a mistake. He did that twice when I was about 19. I couldn't fathom it out. Nobody told me. Because there's no coaches in those days. It dawned on me during the game, there's only way I can beat him. I must take the ball up to him. He's got to commit himself. And that's how I improved taking a player and tacking. Not go that way to the right or the left. Go right to him. He's got to commit himself. I'm in charge.
So was that the birth of your famous trademark? Weight on one side and going the other?
I think so. If I'm on the edge of the penalty area and there's only one player to beat, I'm going to try to beat him. If I don't beat him and lose it, I haven't lost anything. But if I can beat him on his left side, I can do whatever I want. I take the ball up inside the penalty box. I've got 3 moves. Now, the goalkeeper is dithering because he's got to stay at the nearest post. And the first thing I've got to look up for is one of my incoming forwards for a back pass. Now, if that's not on, my next move is to send the ball to the far post. The goalkeeper is stranded anyway. If that's not on, I try and hit the ball loud and low across the net, the goal mouth, see what happens. This is the most devastating, dangerous move for wingers to do that. That's where all the goals come from, not down the middle. I used to do that, and I got confidence, and people used to say, well, we know what he does. But you see, I think the secret was change of pace. As soon as I flicked it, I was very quick. I used to practice 20 sprints a day, not 50 yards, 15 yards, and 6 shots explode. It's no use being clever on the ball, and you slow off the mark. They'll catch you again. You've got to show them a clean pair of heels. And the more you play against a defender, and you can beat him once and you beat him twice quickly, he loses his confidence. He starts dithering. His strength goes. No matter how fit he is, you're there to destroy him. And I wanted to destroy him because he would want to destroy me. Oh no, I wanted to get there first.
There must have been one or two, Stan, who would destroy you in the literal sense because they couldn't match your skill, therefore they would just make sure that you didn't have feet on the ground.
I remember saying to one of the players who followed me, I said, I think he was Spurs left full back, and he followed me over the place, he followed me there, and I said to him, how about you and I sitting on the bench? He said, okay, I'll join you.
This must have been Mel Hopkins.
Mel Hopkins it was, yeah. So they talk about close marking. Some of these forwards today, they really don't know what close marking is.
The local newspaper placard was in regular use as war approached. Occasions always mattered to you, Stan. I wondered how you felt about playing in Germany just before the war.
Oh, my goodness, yes, in 38. Yeah, I scored a goal there. And Len Golden scored one of the greatest goals I've ever seen, outside the penalty box. Remember him? Len Golden used to play for West Ham. He hit a ball from the volley, he went in the back of the net. I'm sure it hung there for 2 minutes.
What was the atmosphere like?
Oh, great atmosphere. At the stadium, must have been about, 100,000 there. And we got stripped in the dressing rooms right to about 99 steps. You know, and it was terrific hard work to go up those steps at half-time. But we're easily the better team.
Using sport as a political weapon to prove their superiority again turned sour for the Germans in the stadium they'd built for the 1936 Olympics, although Dr. Goebbels put a brave face on things. Vic Woodley in the England goal was beaten 3 times, but at the other end, England scored 6. Cliff Bastin started it, and then Goulden finished it. And in between, there were 2 goals for Jackie Robinson, and 1 each for Frank Broom and Matthews.
But then, a week later, we go to Switzerland, in Zurich. We're supposed to beat them because it was raining. Our sort of ground's muddy. We get beaten, I think, 2-1. That's the disaster that was.
That's football.
And the left back, they said to me, the left back is an easy left back. You shouldn't beat him. I said, why? He says, well, he's a dance band leader, and he's conducting his band every night. He doesn't get to bed till 2 o'clock. He paralyzed me.
That impressions could be misleading finally came home to English football as a whole on a winter's day at Wembley in November 1953. Matthews was a member of Billy Wright's team, about to be taught a lesson by the Hungarians, led by Ferenc Puskas.
Well, the sceptical English supporters were used to fine football from continentals, but to seeing teams that had no danger near goal. They were soon to find out the Hungarians were like no other team they'd ever seen. Watch this number 9, Idaguti, the centre forward, who puts Hungary 1 up in 45 seconds.
Nobody marked Idaguti. No matter if you don't check him, you don't stand with him, he's going to cut you to ribbons.
And there's the second goal scored by Idaguti. But the most fantastic goal of all was still to come. Watch Puskás.
The Hungarians were fantastic. Puskás, remember that? And he scored the goal with his left foot, twist on one was Billy. He sent Billy right the wrong way and hit it back of the net. Good team.
What was your feeling afterwards, though, Stan? I mean,
terrible disappointed.
That's a bit of an understatement, really, because I mean, we'd been, or thought we were the masters.
Yeah, we were. I think we could have done better. Somebody should have been tagged on to Idaguti to start with. It doesn't say we'd have won, but it would give us a bit of a chance. As I said, you can't leave a clever player in the midfield, he'll kill you. He couldn't do that.
Switzerland 1954 was the second of Matthews' 2 World Cups, but his total of 56 full caps over 22 years seems small reward for his genius. The war, of course, was a factor, but it was more the vagaries of selection and the failure to appreciate that there was room for both great wingers, Matthews and Tom Finney, which ensured that Matthews' first association will always be with the FA Cup.
It's January 1947, Cup Day. Stoke are playing Tottenham, and Stanley Matthews is there in the number 7 shirt in the 6.5 size boots, all adding up to 5 foot 9 inches of football magic. Crowds are at their peak. Everyone wants to see Stanley Matthews. Stoke are still a First Division side then, but the honours that come their way are few, and Stanley Matthews, though rich in football trophies, dreams of a Cup winner's medal. No one knows it then, but this is Stanley Matthews' last season in the colours of Stoke City.
You eventually left Stoke after 17 years there, but you might have actually gone before the war.
In, I think, 1938. We didn't see eye to eye with the manager. And I thought, well, probably the best would be if I'd asked for transfer, which I did. But I was never granted it because they had a town meeting, over 2,000 supporters, saying that Matthews must not go. And that stopped the transfer, because if they did, I'd probably have gone to Newcastle, because the old manager, Tom Mather, left Stoke to go to Newcastle, and he was after me. So I might have been a Newcastle player.
Playing alongside Jackie Milburn.
That would have been it, wouldn't it? Eh?
Yeah, interesting.
All those great players.
Along the prom at Blackpool. The demanding run along the beach was much more Matthews' cup of tea. But the body sway, the lightning pace and the twinkling feet became the new attraction among the familiar, hoping to satisfy the customers of Bloomfield Road.
There's Harry Johnson, Stan Watson, Ernie Taylor and all these fine players, and Jackie Moody. We used to say to Harry Cummings, the groundsman, Harry, you know the situation. If we lose, we're going to stay longer in the bath, but you'll be outside the dressing room so we can go to the far end of the field, open your gates, and we go that way so we don't meet the fans. What about that? And he used to take us over to the far end. He'd open the gates, and he'd put his head, he says, there's nobody here. I'd run to my car, Jackie Moody in there, Stan Morrison, and Harry, and everybody. Most of us used to do that. Of course, when we won, we were quite prepared to go to the front entrance.
It's Cup Final Day 1951. Blackpool are playing Newcastle United. As King George VI steps out to meet the Blackpool team, everyone says that this is Stanley Matthews' last chance of getting his Cup Winners' Medal. Newcastle are the outsiders. Away from Tyneside, everyone's banking on a Blackpool win for Matthews' sake.
To Stanley Matthews, Wembley has always been a challenge, and that's why he makes this stadium his national stage, never failing to put in a great performance. And that's how it is again this day. Matthews at his best. But it's Newcastle who know how to grab their chances. The ball comes to Milburn. A quick glance to make sure he's not offside, and the first blow is struck at Blackpool's hopes. A few minutes later comes the second blow, and once again it's Milburn who delivers it. A superb 30-yard bombshell. Matthews pulls out all he knows, and though Blackpool are 2 down, he so dominates the game that not even the staunchest Tynesider is sure that Matthews can't change it all. But not even all the Matthews magic can pull this match round for Blackpool. A last shot of defiance zooms over the bar, but it brings only a pat of sympathy for Stanley Matthews.
His last chance had gone, a loser's medal in 1948 and another now. The press said he would retire, and the country shed a tear for him.
Your manager at Blackpool, Joe Smith.
Joe Smith was a great character. And always before the game, especially at home, he'd come with his trilby, you know, suit. Well, what I want you to do, boys, get 2 goals before half-time so I can enjoy my cigar. He used to do all these things. And he was a very good loser. And he stuck up for older players. And always if you lost, he used to say, well, my things didn't work out for us today. Boys, go and soak your legs. Hard luck. Right. But this particular match, we lost 1-0. We played terribly. It comes in. I've never seen a bunch of players in my life. He says, Harry, I want you all here on Monday. You do extra training. And Monday I'll call for you, Harry. So we get there and we think, my goodness, he's angry. We've never seen him like this. So Harry goes down to see him. Harry comes back. He says he's still annoyed. He wants to talk to us, but he's going to keep the same team. He wants to talk to us, but he wants to talk to us when we get down to Cardiff because we're playing Cardiff. Now, getting to Cardiff is difficult. So we had a special coach from Blackpool to Crewe, and then we catch the train from there to Cardiff. And then after the match, it's always difficult to catch there's only one train out of Cardiff to Crewe, you know, and that on a Saturday, and that is the 5:05. It's always difficult because, you know, you don't have a proper bath. You've got to change quickly and get in so we can catch it, because otherwise you stay overnight and you have to travel on the Sunday. Anyway, we get down to Cardiff in the evening, and Harry said, Joe, do we have this meeting? Joe says, no, we'll have the meeting in the morning after breakfast. Go. Joe says, no, we'll have a meeting in the dressing room. So I think, what is he up to? He's in a real bad temper. So we get to the dressing room. He closes the door. He looks around. Harry, everybody here? No, George Farm's outside giving tickets. Get him in here. He should be in here. This is it. Close the door. Right. I want to tell you how important it is we catch this 5:05 train back to Blackpool. Marvellous, and I think we beat them that day.
Bit of psychology.
Wasn't that?
Wembley in 1953, another age, and yet perhaps football's clearest memory.
Thousands had come south for the all-Lancashire match. and they were in good voice for the community singing. In their dressing room, Bolton prepared for battle, determined to triumph under the leadership of Billy Moyer. The crowd hadn't long to wait now before the teams came out. Bolton Wanderers in white shirts and dark shorts. The arrival of the Queen with the Duke of Edinburgh was the occasion for renewed cheering by spectators, and presently the Duke went onto the field and the teams were presented.
In those days, every player wanted a cup final medal. There's no doubt about it. Because there was no, if you won the championship, you weren't, or cup final, you weren't playing in Europe. You know, there's no league in those competitions in those days. It was the cup final medal that everybody wanted. That was the highlight, to get to the cup final, and you have 6 weeks to prepare. Most wonderful thing ever.
The ball was set in motion by Blackpool's centre-forward, Mortensen. The first sensation of a sensational cup final came in the first minute. Bolton attacking, the ball comes into centre-forward Lofthouse, who shoots from long range and beats far. 1-up to Bolton. A nasty shock for Blackpool, but Stan Matthews was already showing first-class form, and as everyone knows, the Maestro can be a match winner. Then the equaliser by Mortensen, who beat Hassel and Hansen. Who would be a goalie at a moment like this? 5 minutes later, Bolton regained the lead through their skipper, Moyer. So the royal spectators and the great Wembley throng saw Bolton kick off in the second half with a goal in hand. Minutes later, a centre from right winger Holden was headed through by Eric Bell in spite of his injury. 3-1 to Bolton. Blackpool's second goal followed a centre from Matthews, which Hansen failed to clear. Mortensen did the rest. Bolton 3, Blackpool 2, and still time for more sensation. Now Mortensen takes a free kick and scores. Surely it must be a draw.
When I beat Ralph Banks, I pounced on it quickly. I'm not clever. All footballers see these in the picture. They see it right away. And Ralph Banks was there. And I had to get it very quickly to him, tack him, and beat him. And I thought I overran it. And I pushed it. As I got to him, I should have been closer. But I pushed it. I didn't get too close. I pushed it. And he came after me. I didn't beat him as I wanted to beat him. Now, there's always, when I beat anybody like that, the first thing I see is always Stan Mortensen. I've got to hit the ball back. He is there. And as I went to the ball, I quickly looked up. Morty had run forward to the goalkeeper. I was saying, no. Only looked like a flash. There I saw Bill Perry in open space on the penalty spot.
It's there! Perry!
As soon as I hit it, it was a simple pass. It wasn't a pass trying to go through a foot. It wasn't such a great pass. Anybody could have given that pass, you know? But as I hit it, I slipped. And he scored. Great shot. So I said to Morty after the match, I said, wait, I was after you. He says, well, when I saw you there, a defender was on top of him. And I saw Bill Perry coming in. And I shouted, Bill, here. And I ran towards the goalkeeper, and he took the defender with him. And he left that space. Wasn't that a clever move?
A flick to centre finds Perry, who crashes it home into the Bolton net. Blackpool 4, Bolton 3. There's no doubt about it now. Matthews, recently ignored by the England selectors, is the man of the match. What a great reception he gets from all at Wembley as the whistle goes. Matthews, in his third cup final, is the hero of the day.
Celebrations evidently began in the dressing room. It was a champagne occasion, of course. But there was something far better than that for Stan. That medal at last.
At 38, you had that little gong in your hand at last.
Yeah. Yes, something.
The country's feelings were expressed later.
At the palace, it might almost be said to be sports day. There's an investiture, and among the people honoured by the Queen is Stanley Matthews. But no longer a mere mister. He's Sir Stanley, first professional footballer to be made a knight.
Even today, to use the title, Sir Stanley, still produces a shy reaction.
Why the Sir Stanley? Why the Sir all of a sudden?
Well, it did come just before you...
It did, yes. I was very fortunate, really, I think.
The only one, Stan. The only knight from...
Yeah, I was very fortunate, really. Truly.
You remember the occasion well?
Yeah, I was very nervous. Terribly nervous. And Queen said, you still enjoying your football? I said, yes, Mum.
If she asked you now, you would reply the same.
I'll still say the same. More so.
Fitness continues as a family fad. His son, Stanley, used it to become a tennis player and now runs a club in Connecticut. His daughter, Jean, became a physical education teacher.
Well, how have you gone on today, Stanley?
Oh, not bad. Got been working for about half an hour.
Yes?
I'm a bit tired now.
Oh, well.
You're going to do a few now?
Yes, I must do a few exercises.
It's not just exercise, but whole body fitness.
This morning.
Diet has been equally important.
Very important. And also, 1 day a week without food. On a Monday, I had nothing to eat. And I felt much better the next day. And I got to that stage that threw him out. And then I had a problem. The problem was, when I was about 44, I didn't know how to train. Should I do as much training as I was 20 years ago? And I realized that I didn't need so much training. I didn't need ball control. I didn't need ball practice. That wouldn't improve my play. I had to be fresh for Saturday. You understand what I mean? And then I didn't do all that exercise. I did a few exercises, breathing exercise, gone to the beach in Blackpool before I went training. Only did about 6 spins, but I kept away from the ball so I could be fresh for the Saturday.
Overnight, down in the mouth, Stoke City were transformed. Stanley Matthews was back with the club, and shoals of telegrams left him in no doubt about his welcome. What a tonic for Stoke, near the bottom of Division 2, that Mr. Football was home again.
You've heard of Greece and Puskás and Pele from Brazil, but Stanley Matthews from the Pots is the greatest of them all. And indeed, my lads, it's true, my lads, I've never been known to lie. And if you've been down Boolham Road, you see the same as I. Last night I had a curious dream I've never had before. Stan Matthews on the wing for Stoke at the age of 84.
The story had its fairy tale ending. He played again with Stoke in the First Division, before retiring, too early, he now claims, soon after his 50th birthday. His wanderings since have seen him coach and play the world over, with long periods in Malta and South Africa. And he's still teaching his beliefs in dribbling, always with the 1 foot, to anyone who cares to listen.
They talk about today that you shouldn't dribble. Is that so? When I go to London, there's some of these ex-pros and so on. I said, why? It's not in the game. You've got to get the ball in space. Get there in 2 touches and get a goal. I said, that's fine. But the game, every game is different. And then there's some talk you shouldn't be passing to the feet. But you've got to pass the feet sometimes. You've got to maneuver. You've got to have skillful players. But what about Johnny Giles? There's proof that he could play. He was a good outside right for Leeds. And he was getting a bit slow. In those days, you had to be quick as a winger, you know. And if you're a bit slow, you'll be out finished. And what happened? They put him as a midfield player when the new style came. He was outstanding. He couldn't tackle, but he had wonderful sense, and he was passing the ball backwards and so on. That's proof. Well, you try to talk to these experts, I call them so-called experts. It's a coach's game. It's not a player's game. It should be a player's game.
Look for Stan in late summer, and you'll find him in Upper New York State, at Lake Placid in the Adirondack Mountains. Before the snow comes to test the skiers, he goes to Mountain View Soccer Camp to help teach the youth of America.
Let me get a definition out of you. What is coaching at this level? What's the real aim?
Well, it's very important to be coached when you're young at this age, 8, 10, what have you. You make sure that they are coached properly, because when they get older and they have these terrible habits, you'll never, when they get 14 to 15, they always have these bad habits.
Every one of them I notice has a ball.
It's great. This is how it should be. Come on. Go on, Brandt. Go on. Do you... Come back again. Come on, do you?
Stan, that one's a bit more Tom Finney than Stan Matthews, it seems to me.
Hasn't he got that wonderful body swerve at 10 years of age?
20 years ago, he hoped to pass on his skills to youngsters in the Potteries.
I've got you.
Well, this is not White Hart Lane or Anfield. This is the home in Burslem in the Potteries of 4th Division Port Vale. And today, one of the Potteries' famous footballing sons, Sir Stanley Matthews, took up his duties as general manager of the club. At Port Vale, Matthews resumes a partnership with his great friend Jackie Moody, who is the club's player-manager.
Did you enjoy your brief managerial career?
For the first 2 years, yes. I never got paid. That didn't matter because we had a policy. Jackie Moody was assistant manager. We had a policy we'd try and get young players. It would take about 7 or 8 years. We thought about this. And the directors went along with it. But of course, after 2 years, they were impatient. And when I went after players in the Northeast where the better the soccer kids were, it was very difficult. If an international player, young kid, I go to his father, he said it would cost you thousands to get him. We had no money. Well, you know, we wouldn't do that anyway.
Matthews' time at Port Vale was both an end and a beginning. The start of a little-known second part of his life, no less remarkable than the first.
There's a real touch of Switzerland about this place, isn't there?
It is. There's no doubt about it, Barry. It's a beautiful place here.
And has now become one of your many homes, it seems to me, since
every year for 4 years we have been here.
Yes, we love it here. We just come here about 1 week or 2 weeks, and it's very exciting, actually.
They met in Prague, the football manager of touring Port Vale and the cultural assistant at the American Embassy, more used to meeting with Steinbeck, Rubinstein and Stern.
When were you last in your home?
You mean Czechoslovakia?
Yes.
In March.
Last March.
Do you manage to get back now?
I got back. I saw the renovated National Theatre and the Bath of Pride for the 20th time.
And then I go on to Stoke. I see all my pals, Neil Franklin and all, and Jackie Moody, and we have a beautiful annual evening with all those players, and it's great.
I mean, you've just really pointed the enormous contrast. I mean, here you're a boy from the Potteries, and this lady from Czechoslovakia. I mean, your backgrounds are so totally different.
In what way?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, but we still manage.
and manage for a long time.
As long as I don't take Stan to a ballet and he doesn't take me to my sport.
You've heard of Greece and Pushkas and Pele from Brazil, but Stanley Matthews from the Pots is the greatest of them all. And indeed, my lads, it's true, my lads, I've never been known to lie. And if you've been down Bootham Road, you see the same as I. Last night I had a a curious dream I've never had before. Stan Matthews on the wing for Stoke at the age of 84. And indeed, my lads, it's true, my lads, I've never been known to lie. And if you've been down Bootham Road, you see the same as I.